Hi all. This is an introduction to Six Sigma and very short coverage of the define phase. I'm just deducting a few slides from Black Belt training just to give you an introduction on Six Sigma. This is a quick chart and it's very detailed about how Six Sigma goes about. From starting point to the end point, you start with problem identification. And as we say, a problem well defined is half solved already. So we put a great deal of emphasis on defining problems in Six Sigma. So we get to the solution quickly and effectively with the least effort, money, and time. Starting from the define phase where we identify a few things and define a few things like the CTQ, critical to the quality, the process, and the project. And then we move into the measure phase where we have several tools for measurement, quality function deployment, project measurement, fishbone, etc. And then to the analyze phase where we apply some of the analytics and statistics and data crunching, various statistical tools, to the improve phase, and then finally to the control phase where we supposedly control what we have improved and keep it running this way. And for the purpose of not reinventing the wheel every time, we like to document things and the actions taken and the results achieved and obtained, and thus we end. Keep in mind as you get to know more about Six Sigma, or if you go get a certificate, um, you don't have to go in a sequence in Six Sigma. You apply what fits best to the process based on your problem identification and process map. So this is just in a nutshell what Six Sigma is all about in this little chart here. And but the implementation might be varying. You don't have to go through the phases. The steps. You don't have to apply everything. Basically, what I'm saying. The Six Sigma, which we call the make, is basically five phases: the define, the measure, the analyze, the improve, and the control. Each one of them has a few elements that would need to be applied totally or just some parts of it. And with that said, we will go quickly to the define phase where we defined uh, we want to learn about the three steps needed for the define, the deliverables, describe the steps for the CTQs, which is maybe a new phrase, and then describe the considerations to select a bound or a good project. The CTQ stands for critical to the quality. That's an attribute of the process and sometimes to the product that is coming out of a process. So there is always a process that you need to study. The opportunity is any measurable event not meeting specification limits of a CTQ or whatever is critical to the quality. Defect, any nonconformance causing customer dissatisfaction. DPMO, defects per 1 million opportunities, and how this is how we measure Six Sigma, and CP is process capability. So we want the process to be capable in giving the customer or achieving the quality that the customer is requiring. The define phase covers three steps or three elements: identifying the CTQ, developing a work charter that you need to work with, and then define the process map, which is very important. And that defined process map in the future will come again in the measurement or the measure phase. Identify the customer, compile data, translate the needs, integrate CTQs into a business strategy. If there's no business case, then there is no Six Sigma project because we don't do it for fun. It has to meet a business case. Um, Again, in the define phase, we identify who is the customer. That could be internal customer or an external customer. Compile and evaluate the data existing or for existing customers. Where did the data come from? And evaluate that. Analyze voice of the customer. This is something new, so it's VOC. voice of the customer, translate the customer needs into CTQs, and therefore sometimes we don't know the CTQs. Part of the project will be to determine and define the CTQs that the customer is looking for. Then we integrate these CTQs with business strategies. We have to have a business case. We cannot do a Six Sigma project without a business case. And finally, identify the CTQs that we are going to use. Because we will work on a project, the Six Sigma project that we will select, we need to identify the project CTQs by identifying the customers, who your customers are, and what the requirements are for your services or your products. The customer expectations need to be defined. We call something called project boundaries, and what you will focus on and what you will not focus on. If you have too many CTQs, then you need to basically see which ones are critical to the quality. So we look for the critical few, not the trivial many. There could be a multitude of factors that impact the quality, and we cannot work on all of these. So we pick only the critical to the quality, the few of them that make or break the process. Define the process that you are striving to improve. Start by mapping the process. Basically, do a flow chart with every step of the way, what happens to the flow of that process. And this is how we are able to identify errors that can impact the outcome, the quality outcome, or the attributes or the CTQ. Basically, in a nutshell, this is what you measure, your process and your success, and this is what the customer measure, their process and their success. So there is a gap. You want this gap to be as narrow as possible, or basically identical. So you'll be basically your success becomes your customer success, and you don't have to struggle. But if there is a gap, then you need to work with these three pointers to close the gap. Imprint the customer thinking or way of thinking, drive different actions, provide new performance opportunities, and think ahead of what the customer might be looking for and know exactly what to do about that. Once again, project CTQs, customer CTQ derived from and documented. The project is selected, the team is identified, and there's a charter so people know what to do, when and how. Process map to validated and completed. The two most specific tasks that are completed during this phase, which is the identifying project CTQs, is the customer needs. We need to focus on that. And again, the process map is key. Process map is key in Six Sigma. Where do we get data from to work with customers? From customer complaints, from customer surveys, from business goals, from strategies, benchmarking, focus groups. If we can measure it, we can develop strategies to satisfy the customer needs. So measurement becomes a key. This is as a function of, so if the why is what the customer is looking for, the customer is looking to attain this, to get this with a specific quality. And this why is a function of factors. These factors are the define, the measure, the analyze, the improve, and the control. So basically, you work all of this to satisfy what the customer is looking for. It's a function of everything you do. Identify the process that needs improvement through the business theme. It has to be really related to the business, not because you like to do it or because it's easy, but because it's related to a business case that will make the business better. Identify customers and use customer needs and wants to formulate the internal or external CTQs critical to the quality attributes. Develop the process map, create error definition and opportunity. So what is an error? What would you consider an error? And we will need to count these errors. Like we said, we have 1 million opportunities and we want to make 0 out of these million opportunities per Six Sigma definition. If possible. Identify potential data sources, identify team members, financial impact, like how much money you will save, how much money you will make if the project were successful, how much sales will be improved if the customer is satisfied, and so on. Always put the dollar figure on all these steps. Six Sigma loves money and loves to show how much money will be saved or made via the project that you're working on. When you select the project, you need customer, of course, you need to hit the target with the customer. And this is something we call project DNA, is defining the goals aligned with the business goals. You cannot have a project that is outside the business goals or outside the scope of the business. It's very critical. Must lead results with significant impact, not mediocre impact. Must have significant impact. Can work with other projects, so nothing opposed. Two teams cannot fight over resources. If there's two projects, two Six Sigma projects, then team needs to be um, aligned with the resources and the combined effect. So things need to kind of fall into a harmony. Um, Results for improvements must be actionable. And roles in managing the project should relate to the participant, the team players, and key jobs should not wear too many hats or be out of your expertise field, etc. Project selection, you will need to select a project that the scope is manageable, has an identifiable error, something to work with. Project has identifiable impact. There's a buy-in from the stakeholders who's interested in making this project, the ability to measure where errors happen in the process, ability to assess and quantify potential impact. Some of the pitfalls when selecting a project: inadequate resources, losing the momentum in the middle, working on easy access, which are the factors that impact the quality outcome, and leave the tough factors, avoiding pitfalls. To do that, get commitment to the resources upfront from the champion if you're working in a Six Sigma environment. Always research any available new data so you will have the best data available for you, and set up milestones and communicate the plan, make people aware of what you do. And finally, I'm going to stop with this slide. There's a project screening matrix. If you get to work with several projects at the same time, you're not sure which one to start with, which one is more important, and you have just a few projects to work with, then you need to create something like this where you list all the projects, and then you put some weights on them from the risk of not doing, competencies that are available, urgency, positive impact, and then you basically determine which one, the one with the highest score, will be the one you start with, and so on. So this is in a nutshell an introduction to Six Sigma and a little bit about the define phase, and look forward to seeing you in the upcoming videos. Thanks.